is the next panel, Crafting for Good, the Art, the Heritage, and the Future. Today, we will be focusing on the interconnectedness between fashion, art, and design, the importance need of authenticity in creative disciplines, especially in our contemporary context, with so many possibilities, languages, products. What makes a product, a designer, a brand stand out? Some questions. The importance of crafts, heritage as a language, a path, and a trace of uniqueness. And of course, how all these matters translate into fashion and design. And these three people know so much about it, so it will be lovely to have this conversation. Let's start by, I will ask my fellow, how do you call it? Not orators? No, not orators. Speakers. Fellow speakers. He studied in England, and he doesn't know how to speak English. So, can you please introduce yourself just for us to have a little understanding of who you are? Joana Vasconcelos, maybe just point upwards. Artist, can you please talk a little bit about yourselves and what you do so that people that are not familiar can know?
So, hello everybody, it's a pleasure to be here. First of all, I'm Portuguese. I'm a woman, and I was born in '71 in Paris, and I live and work here in Portugal, in Lisbon. So I'm the local artist, and I have the privilege to be here with a body of work of mine under this piece. And of course, I work in an interconnection between the art world and other worlds like fashion or design. And so, like fashion and design. And so it has been a privilege through my career, all over 30 years now, that I have been blessed by going all over the world, meeting a lot of brands, a lot of museums, a lot of collectors, and to be able to interact in different mediums other than the art world. The art world is a very specific world. It has its own rules, but in a way I've worked with other big brands in fashion and in design. So
namely Dior, amongst others.
Like, yes, like Dior or Louis Vuitton, or I work with other big collectors like Karl Lagerfeld, and collectors, designers, and collectors too. In a way, it's always interesting to meet these important men that held these incredible brands and to see how they think and they operate.
How they anticipate the future also. That's also, we'll discuss that a little bit later. Danilo Venturi, ciao, come stai?
Ciao.
Benvenuto qui. Modalisboa.
You're speaking a good Italian.
No, I can only speak for like 2 minutes, and then I'm out of words.
Yeah.
Benvenuto.
Grazie.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself before we start?
So, Danilo Venturi, director of IED Firenze. IED is Istituto Europeo di Design. It's a school, and actually it's more than one school. It's 11 schools in Italy, Spain, and Brazil, with 10,000 students. And we teach basically all the creative sides that you can imagine, because that includes fashion, art, visual arts, design, product design, interior design, communication. So when we talk about creativity, we include them all. And before that, I work in education since 15 years, and I wrote 3 books. The last one is called Brand Persona. It's about branding. And before I was working for La Perla, the lingerie brand.
I have so many pieces.
Yeah.
Right now I have 3. No, I don't have anything.
And then, well, unfortunately, you're not my client anymore.
Yeah. Well.
And then and then before that, I worked in music, and I studied politics, so quite messed up career, let's say.
A very creative career as well.
Yeah.
Creative path. Sambaron, bienvenue.
Ici.
You've been in Lisbon. You know Lisbon very well.
Quite well, yeah.
Quite well, since 2001?
Yes.
Am I right?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about yourself. What's your star sign? All of that.
Ariete.
What's?
How is it, Ariete, in English?
Aries?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I speak Italian, you see. Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm French. I was educated as a product designer in fine art school, and then in the National Art Decorative School in Paris. And from there, I started my career working with product brands. And I spent also 10 years in Italy in a research center called Fabrica, which is owned by the Benetton Group, where I was design director to welcome young people under 25 and try to show them the light. And back then, I'm based in Portugal, where I work with different kind of Portuguese brands, beside also some of a French brand. Joanna and myself, we are colleagues sometimes.
Yeah.
For example. And yeah, that's my life.
Did they find the light with you?
Of course.
Of course. So today we will find the light, which is very reassuring, I think, for everyone involved. Everyone is arriving as well. You can take your seats. People that are watching at home, let us start and talk a little bit. Before anything else, I think one of the topics that bleeds onto every discipline is this idea of authenticity. We search for authenticity. We speak about authenticity all the time, be it when you're a social media influencer or when you're an artist, or everyone who uses the word much more now than they used to. What is for you authenticity, Joanna?
For me, authenticity to do something that was never done before, to produce something that will put people thinking, what the hell is going on here? So through my career, my big challenge is always every body of work or every work that I do, every new piece. It's very important not to add something to the planet, because the planet has so many things already that we don't need. So if you add anything, at least it might be something new and something that people will enjoy and something that will bring happiness to people. At least for me, those are the first goals. And, you know, the light is important.
The light as well.
As you
So
can see.
transformation as well
Transformation.
of what already exists.
Exactly.
New ways of seeing.
Yes, and recycling and all the themes that we were debating in the previous talk are really important.
Sustainability.
Sustentabilidade, and how you can recycle your own ideas. How can you recycle yourself every time that you do something new? So I start by recycling myself, and then by looking into the world, how can I recycle things around me?
Is there something in your path, but there has to be a voice, the beginning of your voice as an artist?
That is the question.
That is there? I think so. I'm asking. For authenticity, people see it, and we can go to Danilo for the idea of brand, but the idea of authenticity connected to, I have this ghost note. I have this note inside of myself that makes me act in a certain way, makes me see the world in a certain way, makes me an artist, or makes me, I don't know, someone who has a specific...
Are you asking me where does it come from?
I'll ask you that, because we have to take all the chances. You're here. But I was going to go for authenticity is connected to that space of myself in the world.
For sure, it's connected to identity, so the way you express yourself, and that is the first layer, I think. It's like a ball with...
like an onion?
Yeah, like an onion. So the center of it is creativity of a single person, inspiration, and that is bringing authenticity. Then there are different layers. For example, the environment where you live is contributing to create your language. And so we can say authenticity. So the city where you live is also part of your language. And then we live in a digital era that is making everything more complex now, because, you know, originally we had true and false, like good and bad. Today we don't have only that. We have true, false, false, true, you know, and some brands also played with that. Like in the past, like a few years ago, Gucci was playing with that, like introducing the fake into the original and vice versa, like playing with these games. So authenticity has to do in branding, also something with if it's true or false. And how do you use that? I mean, you go to court, or you bring it to your design and you make a community out of that, that you know.
You recycle it too.
For example, Yeah, so originally it's the inspiration of the artist. That is the origin of everything. And then you have layers. So the environment and the digital era.
What about for you, Sam? What is authenticity?
I was thinking that I didn't got the question, but because my answer is way more simple, I think authenticity is to be true, and true to yourself in your work, and true to the customer you are working for.
Juste.
Yeah,
Fair.
like you embrace a project and you try to make the best out of it, and you try to reach the roots of the company that is asking you a question, which is proposing you to work with. And I think that's super important, because it's something that the public is able to read nowadays, and there is less and less maybe easy marketing bullshit. So people want something true. And if you succeed to deliver in your work a sense of vérité, that is mirrored in the product you are doing, I think it's a good project.
I think we are now, a lot of us, orphans of that sense, because we are so filled with images that we lose track of our voices. I think that's something that is very it happens a lot in a lot of lives. People are consuming images all the time. Of course, we've always consumed images of others, but not in this extent of like I wake up and I have 1,000 images coming at me. So going back to the voice, how do you keep it clean, in the sense that how can you trust your instinct? Because to find la vérité, you have to know how to listen, and even when then apply to the market and then apply to reach others. How would you reply to that, Joanna?
So, la vérité, the truth, and to be connected, and to expand all these ideas, even if you have a program or you don't. Even if you have a client or you don't. Many times I don't have a client, but in the case of design and fashion, you have a client. I don't have the client problem, because I can do pretty much whatever. But to keep it true in any way, first, creativity is the essence of all. In anything that you do, creativity plays a very important role. But then how you are connected to your own truth, that it's up to you. Because we live in a very toxic world, and we are surrounded by toxic things all the time. And so images, food, consumerism, accessorizing life, and not being truthful to yourself. What makes you happy? That's the future. That's the luxurious industry will not be buying something else. It will be to feel good with yourself. So it starts from yourself, from the truth within you. And to be able to get access to that truth, you need to have a certain clearancy of mind. And you can work on that. You can clean your field. You can be connected.
You can get out of Instagram for a little bit.
Whatever.
You won't die. You won't die.
Whatever. It depends. Instagram, or I don't want to go like the ghost of digital world.
Yeah.
It's not true. Digital world helps us to be connected to each other and to know what's going on. So it's not negative. But it depends how you interact with those devices and with the amount of information you have around you. Because you can submerge, or you can use it, and you can use it to understand where you are, where you're standing. So it's much easier to have toxic people all over that will not create anything. It's easier to control them than to have truthful people that are creating every day. Yeah. Because if everybody's creative, everybody is
in their own power.
In their own power, in their own voice. So that's much more difficult to control. So to have creative people, it's like Danilo knows very well, because he has a school in Portugal.
I was going to go for that.
And so it's really important to keep that connection with creativity and how to educate people to keep that alive. But you do that since you have a kid. And you put him to school, and he will lose that connection with their own ability to draw, to dance, to sing, to express. Expression is part of the human race. It's the difference that we have with the animal kingdom, is we express ourselves and we represent ourselves. We are the only species that does that.
Through the medium of story.
Whatever medium we can use, we are different examples of that.
Yeah, exactly.
But how you transform that to non-people that don't express themselves, that's society.
How do we wake up? Is it through education?
Education is very important, I think, because in my education, for example, when I was a kid, I realized that education was not educating me. I mean, actually, it was trying to standardize me as much as possible.
Exactly.
And creative education, I mean, schools of art and fashion and so on, can make the difference because it's still a place where you can produce the unprecedented, something that normally in the industry you don't have. You have few cases. You belonged to one of those cases, for example. Fabrica is one of those cases where you can experiment in the industry, but it's quite rare, you know. And especially in a moment of crisis, and actually they always say there's a crisis.
We've been in crisis since forever. At least in Portugal, I feel.
They cut research, for example, from the companies. So the school makes that, and I think research is a way to find yourself, to find what you like, to dedicate yourself to a certain topic that makes you what you are, you know, to become what you are, because originally you are already what you are, but then you forget it. Like they standardize you. So what we need to do in school is to bring it out again.
Unlearn.
Yeah. Kind of that.
Yeah.
And, you know, one of the tools we use for doing that is sometimes is to cut something. For example, to students we ask to make the wardrobe exercise. So they need to decide what to throw from their wardrobe. And in the end, they come up with 5, 10 pieces, and that's it. This is what they really wear, you know? This is sounding obvious, but it's not obvious because it's bringing your identity to what it is. And it helps you to understand that you cannot buy, and just buy and buy again because you don't know who you are. So first you need to know who you are, and then you buy accordingly. So this education is not only how you create things, but also how you use things that other people are creating. And another tool we use for bringing it out is multidisciplinarity. Meaning that who is studying fashion is not only doing fashion, but it's also doing art, design, like studying with other students, because you can learn from your teachers, but you can also learn from your schoolmates.
Of course.
Especially if the school is international, you know, like people coming from different places, different cultures. By the way, another layer of the onion composing the identity is coming from there. It's the international environment, as we had 30 years of globalization so far, you know, so also that is contributing to who you become, which is supposed to be who you are.
So unlearning.
Yeah.
When you got to Portugal, Sam, how did you find the country? Did you think the country was still connected to that sense of itself? Because I think Joana has worked so much with, you know, a lot of the Portuguese identity and what it means to us and ideas of the Portuguese identity. When you got here, what did you think? Did you feel like we were aware of who we were or not at all?
Yes, of course. I think, I mean, Portugal at that time was like
2001.
super true to itself in the way that that was it. That was the lifestyle, that was the food, that was the distance to travel, the time it takes to catch a train. Everything was there, and it was not even a question, I think.
Do you think now is a question?
I think, yeah, there is a deep question here, which is what are you doing with this beautiful country?
What are we doing? I think that's a very important question. When you work with Vista Alegre, for instance, how was it bringing art and then working with such an established and old brand? The heritage, having to deal with the heritage, and you both know how to have to deal with like Dior, such a huge name. How was it for you and to keep your identity and the identity of a brand aligned? Is that a difficult navigation to have?
It's a long one, but no. I have to say that my first project in Portugal was with Vista Alegre, which was quite amazing because I heard about Vista Alegre in the Art Decorative National Museum in Paris, with which I was doing a project, and then I won a scholarship, which is called Villa Medicis outside of the wall, which means that when the house in Roma is full, they send us somewhere else. And I decided to come in Portugal, having this opportunity to work with this porcelain company. I was not aware of what it was representing here. And I remember, like, the second night I was in Porto, and some people invite me, and they were like, "What are you doing here?" And I was like, "Yeah, tomorrow I'm going to Vista Alegre to do a kind of research project." And they were like, "What?" I was 26 years old, and it was, you know, just like really, really, not even 26. Anyway, and I didn't knew that the monster I was touching, you know, like that was the most luxurious brand and established brand in Portugal.
And fragile porcelain, very fragile.
And fragile. And I did a first collection, and I was so impressed when I arrived to see all this quality and the in a way the simplicity of and the beauty of how people were doing things with so much care and love, and they were really impressing because they want to give and show the best, as lots of Portuguese like to do, like really welcoming and giving you the best. And I come from a country where porcelain is also like really rooted in our culture. We all have a Limoges cup somewhere in our home. So my first project was just a project of taking old Portuguese shapes, putting them together, and having just one decor, which was a blue line, linking all the pieces together. And they were like, "But why you don't design a new pair of vases or some useful stuff?" And I was like, my best reward to the welcome I got is maybe just to use what you have been doing, like this kind of Chinese shapes, which are very exotic to me, not for you because you have Companhia das Indias, or this kind of things. And I was like, if I rearrange it in a different way, very contemporary way, maybe that's a way to look to your company, almost 200 years old, and it bring it into a different standard market, and it was shown in a
different territory, even. How did they take it?
They were super happy. Now, it was a bit of a struggle, of course, because people were thinking like, "Oh,
he's transforming everything."
No, I was not missing respect, but I was using things in a very different way, and that was a bit of a challenge. But at the same time, we did that collection, and that was very a big project for me because Portugal was not really fashion at that time. We're in France, so when I get back in France with that collection in my suitcases, they were like, "Wow, this young kid in Portugal with a 200 years old manufacturers, blah blah blah," and it was magic for everybody.
Magic for us too. Joana, we haven't talked about the concept of time, and I think time is not only of the essence, but it's super important in the creation of. If you think about anticipating the future, and in your case, you look so much to what we already had, what we created, and it has been beautiful to see the progression of it and your take on things, and how now you're on such a huge stage, and we're under Valkyria. For you, how has it been to touch that heritage and bring it with you towards the world stage?
It's a very good question, actually, because we artists, we play a role of representing the tribe that we exist in.
Ambassadors.
Ambassadors, and represent the tribe into the future. So if we do well our jobs, next generations will understand who we were in the present time. But also, when we inherit very important history and backgrounds and countries like Italy, France, or Portugal, we have a lot of heritage. So it's quite difficult to manage heritage and then being in the present and managing the future. So we have three moments. We have the past, our own history, our own geography, and how we live. And then we have to present something into the future, something new, something that was never done before or thought before. So when Sam comes here, he learns about the heritage, comes with a different mind. So he looks into...
Sees different things.
Different things from his own background, so he can add easily to Vista Alegre. That's something really embedded in our culture. But Vista Alegre is doing 200 years this year, and Tupazu is doing 150 years this year. And this year also, we'll have the 500 years of Camões, Lusíadas, and the 50 years of the
25 de Abril,
25 de Abril. So
25th
we have a
April.
year of a lot of things, and our past is very rich.
But we don't, like as Portuguese, we don't look at our past, all of us, with the same lens. That is impossible because all of us are so different. But in the same, like we haven't debated as a country a lot of our history.
We take our history for granted, and that's a problem. I just came from Abu Dhabi, where they don't have history. And that was like, oh my God, what's happening here? It's like, you know, they just built a country in 50 years. And they were like, you know, with Portuguese were here. And I was like, you really? And then they tried to create a heritage from something that it's not the same as us. We take Italy, for instance, is embedded, you know, we have all this heritage, incredible. So it's really difficult when you have such a strong past to live in the present, taking care of that past and looking into the future and bring something new. At least for me, I try to be a kind of a bridge between the past and the future, but living in the present. That's my main goal.
Danilo, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, there's a lot to say about that because actually in Italy, for example, the past can be a burden.
Yeah.
It's
I think here too. I don't think here is
overwhelming.
Yeah.
You cannot create something new without taking account of the past. So we tried to unlock that and to understand how to do that, at least in school. And we realized that the way we create the future in our mind is very similar to the way we create the past in our mind. So, because for the future you see something that is happening today, and then you create a scenario which is kinetic, it's visual, it doesn't exist, you know, that includes those factors. And if you think at the past, you have remains of the past, but you were not there.
Yeah.
So the rest
You are
is
creating it.
storytelling, you know, you imagine how it was.
Yeah.
So actually, imagining the future and the past works the same way. So if you understand that, you can mix the elements of one thought and the other thought. So you unlock the game of black and white or past or future, you know. And second element, I give you an example. This was when it was still possible to go to Russia. And I was in a school there, and they told me, okay, this is my collection, and it's inspired to the Tsar era. And another one came, and this is my collection, and it's inspired to the Soviet era. And it was all consistent. Like Soviet was represented with, you know, the suits for going to the space, and Tsar was very, very...
long coats.
Yes, and I said, try to do the Tsar vest with the materials or the suit and mix the two eras, you know, and they said, we cannot mix the past. Of course you can. Think at the future, you know. Think how you can use it in the future.
Not easy for Russians.
Not at all, but they did it in the end, you know. But this is the game we can play. Second element I would like to add, when we talk about time, we always talk about space. The two things are interconnected, always. Because actually, if you think at history is creating geography.
Yeah.
No? So, and also that is very educational, because when we ask our students to use their brain in this way, it's not just using the brain. Then with their hands, they have to fill the space. So that thought has to become an exposition.
Materialize.
Yes.
The
has to
idea.
Materialize somehow. Whether it's a product, a design product, or it's an exposition, or it's fashion, doesn't matter. You know, but this is what you have to do. Like, you have a space. You don't have only time. So, nothing. This is what I want to do.
No, it was great. Sam, when you think about the connection of all of this and art with fashion, for some of us, it seems as if it's sort of a new thing, but it isn't, of course, because artists have always been working close with fashion. But now we hear an artist works with Yor, and everyone talks about it. But there's this idea of how do you see artists and fashion merging right now? Do you think we're in a good moment? Is that a terrible question?
It
I'm
is.
sorry.
A bit, yeah.
Very evil.
Okay, please educate me.
It's very evil.
Is it?
Yes.
Well, but I'm interested.
No, but there is, back to the heritage, I think one thing which is super important is how you train yourself to behave with the heritage. So how you, as a designer or fashion designer or artist, what is your position and how you have been good at learning at school, how to build your own culture based on the culture where you come from. So this is really important, and in a way it bridges with the last question you just asked, which is, in the Renaissance, everybody was working together. And I listened this morning an interview you did of Eduarda, and in Fragile, everybody was working together and kissing together. So
Yeah, in the 80s.
what's the problem? You know, there is no question. Just make it. If it's well done, if it's well briefed or well achieved,
It fits.
I think there is not even a question.
Joanna?
I agree with you completely, but it's not true in the sense that we keep dividing by sectors and schools, education, and that's not what Danilo does. That's why his school is special. Because if you go to art, and you have no connection with the architects, which have no connection with the fashion designers or with the designers. So actually, you don't teach everybody everything. And that's a problem because people are taught in a certain way to fulfill a certain role and to have certain rules and to create bottles, and that's it. And artists, they don't have any rules. They just, and so in the way, in the process, what I understood that it was very interesting to know things from architecture or engineering or things from design. Hopefully, I studied a year of design, and I studied with people that were studying architecture. So in the school that I went, I could attend different studios, and I could learn ceramics and glass and drawing. And it was very good because I could attend different studios, but that's not how education is organized, at least in the classical way.
That's true.
That's what Danilo does.
Yeah.
It's to mix everything. When you mix everything, you can do your own path. You can choose, oh, I would like to have art history or fashion history. I attended fashion history or jewelry history, which is very interesting. But you can choose, and everybody has their own way of looking into the world. So you should be able to choose what interests you. And that you would make your own bottle of tools. Your own set of tools would be created by you.
Yeah.
And that makes you unique. And so that's not how the world is organized, unfortunately. So I think that connections have to happen, and they're always in the Cinquecento. They were happening everywhere, and that's how I see the world today. But I'm very criticized by making connections with fashion and design.
Why?
I am, because I'm
No,
commercial.
I'm asking why do they... Oh, because you're commercial. Because you reach
commercial.
people.
Exactly. And
What
that's
a sin.
And still today, that happens today. And I'm not just joking.
How does that make you feel as an
It
artist?
makes me feel like, well, it has been happening for centuries now. And that's how the world should be. We should be able to sit as we are here and to talk about these things and to say, it's wonderful to meet people from the fashion and the design world. I just learned so much by all the interconnections that I made in the past and I will make into the future. But, you know, one day in a gallery, I said, oh, I will work with fashion people. I said, okay, you're not taking the right path, so you need to leave the gallery. And I left a few galleries because of that, because I was making an interaction with other people in the fashion world. And
The dirty world.
well, and so it's how you look into things. And I have to say that I agree with you, Sam, that is how it should be. And I agree with Delino in how you put into your school. But it's not really what the mindset of different departments think.
But in a way, I think that if you are a good art student, the best learning you get is how you are curious, you know?
Yes.
And if a teacher stimulates you to be curious, then who cares about the fact that you design a logo, you design a tag for a water bottle, you design a pair of shoes. It's maybe the way you put the practice you have been taught into practice in the real world. And it happens every year that some people get out of the painting classes and they start to design vases, and some people were a design student and they become, I don't know, pop singer.
It's very fascinating to me to listen to you because I've finished a master's degree in acting at the Bristol Vic in London, well, not in London, in England, and I had this experience of being able to find my voice, even though it is a British education, which has a certain vibe to it. But we were always very much open to the fact that we didn't know everything, and maybe the person next to me knows more. And as a collective, we learned. Would you agree that the collective is essential in that sense?
That's why students work together. I said before, like, especially if students come from different parts of the world, they learn a lot one from another one. But what was the original question about art?
Why is it a dirty word in the sense that artists working with fashion are seen in a certain way? Apparently, I thought that was changing, but maybe not enough.
Yeah.
We have 5 minutes, which I think is not that much for that answer, but please go.
But,
we would need 5 hours.
About Renaissance, I had a little exchange about that with Anish Kapoor when he came to Florence. And he said, okay, to build up this church, the church we have, the Duomo, it took more than 100 years and more than one generation for sure. And that was possible because between generations there was trust. The word trust is fundamental. And now it wouldn't be possible. In fact, we don't do monuments like that anymore. Like you don't have new ones. Why? Just a question. Why don't we build new sculptures, new monuments, there's no Renaissance, not even in modern shapes. Because there's no trust. So we don't trust each other, and we don't trust the generations, and so that is not possible. So
such an interesting point of view, yeah.
Yeah, and that was very interesting when he told that, because I never thought about that, And also the point between art and fashion, that is very, when they ask me, in some interviews they ask me, but is fashion art or business?
Wow.
Both?
Both, but also art is a form of business sometimes, or quite always,
Of course.
And if you read the book of Vasari, who is explaining the life of the artists, they were spending a lot of time considering where to expose or not, or for what, Pope to work or not. What you said is current today, but it was already there since always, and somehow today it's even stronger because fashion is based on repetition of production, while art is supposed to be unique.
Exactly.
So that's
a clash. Yeah.
And I can add something, which is, well, first of all, we don't have an industry. We don't have to reproduce and multiply the object. And second, and the most important thing, we don't have a program. We don't have a specific client to attend. Not to have a program, not to have a client, not to have
an agenda.
An agenda means that you're on your own. So our area is the only one where I can wake up in the morning and say, oh, I will do something with tampons, and nobody cares. But,
But Evax might be interested.
Well, so it's different in that only in that way. The rest, You need to sell like everybody else. You have to exist like everybody else. You have to have
People to feed.
people exactly
Pay your bills.
and pay bills, and you have to, in a way, interact with your public, with your country, with your society, as everybody else, and you have to be creative as everybody else. The only main difference is you don't have an agenda, you don't have a specific client, and you don't have a program. All the other creativity areas have a program. And that's why schools, they intend to put you into the program and to teach you how to fulfill the program. And so instead of releasing creativity and to share, and when we talk about sharing, we should share a lot more things.
Yeah.
And so I think that
Let's listen. We don't have a lot of time, and we would stay here forever. But I think we have a couple of questions. Do we have time to listen to a couple of questions? Temos tempo? 2 perguntas, 2 minutos ou 2 perguntas? Não percebi. 2 perguntas? Tens de falar mais alto, Fábio. 2 minutos. Portanto, we don't have a lot of time. Can we just listen to 1 or 2 questions, quick ones, if possible? Olá, Salomé.
Hi again. Hi.
Hello.
I'm asking in English. Yeah, I'm really glad that you spoke about authenticity. For us, authenticity is about truth. It's about being brutally honest. And we have been doing research with garment workers, with textile workers, with artisans, with people doing like hand work, detailed work, like crochet and tricot and all that. So, and of course we have reports of overwork, non-paid extra hours, as we know here in companies in Portugal, and low salaries. So, Joana.
I was feeling it was coming to
Yes.
I was feeling it.
There was a ray.
Yeah.
You called yourself a local artist. As we all know, your work is made by tens of artisans here in Portugal. And I would love to invite you to normalize this question. That is, we should ask this to any company in Portugal and in the world. What is the entry-level salary you pay to your artisans? And if they work extra hours, or if they are paid for those extra hours?
So what's your name again?
Salomé Areias.
Salome, you know, it's very good that you asked me that question, because I have 60% of women working for me. I have a lot of artisans of different ages. I have people from 18 years old to 80 years old. I have retired people, I have all sorts of people, disabled people, mental disease people. So I open my group we are 60 in very small groups of artisans. And I will not talk about them, I will talk about me. So it was told to me several times that in art fairs by gallerists, even women gallerists, that I could not be asking the same price as that guy next to me, because I was a woman and I was Portuguese. And it was told to me many times that, you know, I could not work with this kind of craft. That was a Penelope syndrome. So many collectors, they tell me, you know, Joanna, we like you, but we don't like that thing that you do connected to fashion or fabrics. That's not serious. Bring me the rest of your work. And so it was told to me many times that I would not be able to resist. Coming from Portugal, being a woman, who in the world would care about a Portuguese artist? So I'm not joking. I was the first woman in the first Biennale ever curated by women in Venice Biennale. In 125 years, they would never asked women to be the curators. So I attended that exhibition in 2005. And many women, like Louise Bourgeois, Annette Bessager, Rosemary, well, a lot of women, they never had the opportunity to be displayed in the Biennale as women. And I was the first piece in that Biennale. I was also the first woman in Versailles. So they exhibit Murakami and Jeff Koons. They never exhibit a woman. You know what they told me when I got to Versailles? They said, yeah, you're Portuguese, you're a woman. If you're good enough, let's see what the numbers come, because you're just a woman. And so when we talk about that, and I have the privilege to say that I survived a very tough path by being Portuguese and a woman. But instead of complaining, I did that as the original aspect of me. So I normally say that I'm much more original and exotic than any Chinese artists, because I'm less expected to exist than any Chinese. So when I go to these big shows of people all over from Italy, here and there and there and there, when people look at me and say, where are you from? Portugal. Oh my God.
How happened?
How it did happen. The other day I have a gallerist from Miami saying, Joanne, you're really original, because in the art world, it's not possible that you exist. And I was like, why? Because, this in Miami. And so it's really interesting, because women, they represent a very large of society today. They study. If you ask me if I worked 3 times more than any man to achieve what I do. So I'm not joking about it. It's something that happens every day in my life. So in my studio, I don't joke about it either. I have people that work in different means and people that work in different areas. I employ everybody. I don't have recibos verdes or strange things, okay? Mm-hmm. And I give
contracts, you mean?
Contracts, which is a very important thing. It means that I have to endure all these people. And when confinement came, I decided to keep all my team. And many people they're not from Lisbon, they are from elsewhere because they are artisans. And so I decided to keep my team. And you know what we did? We decided to recycle. We didn't have any money. After a few months, I didn't have any money to sustain everybody. Mm-hmm. So I indebted myself for the first time to keep the team. And so I said, okay, we need to go out through this in a way. And we're going to recycle what we have. We're going to recycle, work with our hands, and recycle everything we have in the studio. You know what we've done? The Tree of Life that is here. Mm-hmm. So the Tree of Life was, we didn't spend any money, we didn't have any money, and we did the Tree of Life anyway. Why? Because people, when they believe that there is something to work for, when you have a dream, and that dream is about authenticity, about love, about beauty, about bringing something new to the world, they go not because of the money, but because to create a new reality is more important than any money. And so my team told me during 2 years that they would believe in me, and we together would build something unique, something new that will bring, a new aspect to life. So this show is a result of that. The car here inside is a result of that. And it always has been very few things, and with things around us, which is our culture, our own materials, our own heritage, the things that surrounds us. I never work with another brand either than Brancal, which is the wools, the Portuguese wools. I work with the Portuguese styles. And if you look, all my body of work is sustained in the Portuguese culture. Why? Because I don't have to go very far. I don't have to pay for transports. And like Sam says, and he's French, they have a huge heritage and have everything. When you come to Portugal, you look and say, oh my God, Viva Lamego is amazing. Mm-hmm. Oh my God, Topazio is amazing. Oh my God, everything is amazing here. We're very, very good. And I use that in my work and take that into other countries and show, I'm proud of being Portuguese. I'm proud of my heritage, but I don't spend more than what surrounds me. So to be sustainable is first to look around you and to say, I'm proud of who I am, I'm proud of what surrounds me, I will take that into the future. That's what I do.
Just a final note, we can...
I don't have a lot of time, but keep it brief.
Yes,
keep it brief.
Thank you. We cannot ignore that not everything is about money, but money, pays rent and pays food, puts food on the table. So I would just ask the last time, if you want to share with us, if you do have, your artisans do overwork, and if they are paid that overtime.
You want me? Okay. So I am going to tell you what I do. My art, first of all, we have a schedule where people can enter what time they want, and they can. So I don't make people to enter at 8 or 9. Everybody
flexible schedule.
The flexible schedule, and I give everybody an hour a day to self-care, okay? So I have 2 healers, 2 yoga teachers. I have an astrologist, and you can go and have your own time for yourself.
Oh, I wish I had an astrologist.
Okay? It's pretty cool, right, the astrologist? She's very nice, Carmen. So what I give people conditions of work very good. Light conditions, you know, I surround people in their own space. They have very large space, and they use their creativity, which is very important. And yesterday, the first baby bird was born at the studio. So we have a couple of birds that fly all over the studio, and yesterday the first bird was born into the studio. And so we help each other. We have dental care. We have a lot of health programs, which means that I take care of my people as they were my family. Because in a way, their health, their happiness, we don't work on weekends, we don't work overtime, and if we do, we pay that. And of course, I have teams going with me all over the world, installing in different conditions, in different places, and all of that is taken care of in a very professional way. Because, you know, harder than it was for me, it shouldn't be to anybody else. So I try to add to my team to do the best that I can with the conditions that I have.
Thank you, Joanna. Thank you, everyone. Crafting for Good, the art, the heritage, the future. Thank you so much for coming at Fast Talks, in Fast Talks with these amazing guests. A round of applause, please. Joanna Vasconcelos, Danilo Venturi, is Sam Baron. Merci beaucoup. Thank you so much. These were my first Fast Talks, so I hope you guys liked it. I hope you had fun. Obrigado a todos. Obrigado pelas perguntas. E obrigado por terem estado aqui e continuarem a apoiar a moda nacional. E obrigado à Modalisboa pelo convite. E obrigado por continuar a insistir e a existir. E agora temos que nos ver nos desfiles. Portanto, obrigado. Adeus.